Well, in now, science fiction, it represents something completely different from literature. It's not a branch of literature.
You're thinking of dodecaphonic, I think.
No. It's
serial music?
Well, no, it's Schoenberg.
Yeah.
What do you call Schoenberg's? It's atonal, atonality.
Yeah.
It means that you're using all the notes of the scale without reference to the different modes or different scales. There's a better word for it than atonality. But it's not the 12-tone scale anyway. Well, be that as it may. Anyway, in my opinion now, this is what I feel. It is easy to consider science fiction and so-called mainstream literature as science fiction, a little truncated branch off one, but it isn't this way at all. These two things have in common the fact that they both use words, plots, characters, but aside from this, they're not really alike. Now, you take a piece of sculpture, for instance, and a piece of wood carving. You can say, well, yes, these are identical. Look, somebody hacked these things out of some material. Therefore, they're the same. They both use relief or resemblance to something living or something. But essentially, these things are aesthetically completely different. Now, I like to think in terms of jazz music and classical music. Jazz music and classical music are alike in that they use the same general chords.
Some of the same instruments.
Some of the same instruments. They use the same scales, major and minor scales.
Same notation.
Same notation. Still, there is an enormous amount of confusion when people try to relate jazz to ordinary music. Many people who should have known better have made this mistake. Gershwin, for instance, who should have known better.
Yeah.
Of course, well, I won't say that because he made a lot of money. But he made a classical rendition of what he considered to be jazz, and of course it was very popular. But it wasn't any more jazz than that clock in the corner there. Now, similarly with science fiction isn't any more mainstream literature than jazz is classical music. These things are completely different genres. And the attempt to bridge between them is doomed to failure, is bathos with a capital B. This occurs in these horrible Star Trek situations where somebody decides that they are going to try to interpret science fiction to the masses. And they use the themes of science fiction, just as Gershwin uses certain cliches of jazz to produce his Rhapsody in Blue, so do the producers of these television shows use some cliches of science fiction to try to make the idea penetrable to the mass audience. Of course, they're wildly successful. Are we to be angry? Are you angry?
Not particularly. I'm offended by bad art, but insofar as they failed in their task of using science fiction devices, yeah, I'm angry. But overall, no.
No, we're too callous when we reach our age.
Can't be more than a couple of weeks apart.
No, essentially, it's you just can't help it. Now, I've often wondered if I don't know what his name is, but if he approached me and says, "Vance, come write some Star Trek things."
His name is Gene Roddenberry.
I've often wondered what I'd say. I said, "Well, first of all, say how much," and then I'd say, "Well, essentially, I'm not going to do it. It would be I could be tempted with more money than he's got in his budget. But essentially, I'm just not at all interested in it. And he's not interested in me as far as that goes.
What about the other side of the coin? Using science fiction as a vehicle to get themes which might not otherwise receive television airing.
Oh, well, I don't quite know what you mean, to be honest with you.
When Roddenberry talks about Star Trek, we had him on the show, and he's done it scores of other places as well. He talks about using science fiction as an allegory to talk about war and peace.
This is just a lot of $10 words, meaningless, just a lot of abstract vagueness. It's a kind of frothy kind of abstractions that have absolutely no meaning at all. It's just talk.
Well, I think they may have had meaning in
abstractions.
In
Abstractions.
They were concretized for that particular program. And I've talked down the series often, but he did get some ideas into it.
Well, actually, what can you say about war and peace, really, that isn't just can you tell anybody anything about it? No. Or you can say, yes, war is bad and peace is sometimes okay, you know, but isn't it kind of really a waste of time to devote, I don't know what his budget is, but to produce a big show and say, to demonstrate the horrors of war? I mean, that seems like beating not only a dead horse, but a horse that's become a hamburger or something like that.
In essence, then, it's a cop-out. It's an easy target, it's an easy shot which doesn't accomplish anything, which has no way of ever serving the purpose for which it is theoretically intended.
Yeah, I don't think you really need to have a television show purportedly science fiction to display the horrors of war. I think this has been adequately accomplished through other efforts, so to speak.
The trick is to get the enemy to watch the show.
Exactly. Let the Peace and Freedom Party go over there and demonstrate in the streets of Moscow for a bit. That was Heinlein that somebody was telling me. Heinlein was said something about peace and freedom. And he made the point that these words are mutually contradictory. The Peace and Freedom Party, they're each idea negated the other, so to speak. But anyway, this is just some second, third-hand report I had of some remark of Heinlein's. But essentially, it's got some reverberations, which I think deserve a bit of attention.